Yeah, and they get the price they deserve. I remember working near that office and talking Bitcoin years and
Yeah.
years and years ago. I happen to recall that the price back then on in fiat was less than 20,000
Yeah,
Bitcoin.
I know.
Pretty funny now.
And
Yep.
some of my family too. I mean, so like it was a year ago, I had family being like, "Are you still doing that?" And I said, "Okay, remember I gave you a little Bitcoin. I gave them a little coin with a little address and they could open it up and I gave them a little Bitcoin on there. I said, "You remember that gift I gave you?" And like I don't know I mean, I have to translate it into the linguistics of their dollar brain, but in dollars for them, I'm like, "Do you remember at all what the price might have been back then?" And they're
Mhm.
like, "I'm not sure." I'm like, "Okay." It was like around $20,000.
Mhm.
So it's now like 40 something. And then a year later, it's like, "Okay, you remember they mentioned it again." And in a like, "You still doing that?" It's like, "Okay, you remember 2 years ago?" I have to like repeat myself. It's just kind of funny.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean that's one of the more frustrating things about it because it almost bakes in an ego problem for people, right? Because if you like, there were people I was orange pilling around our sort of mutual circle there, and or trying to orange pill, and like I remember when I was smash buying at 16.8, like I was going around telling people, going, it's possible this could go back down, but I'm smash buying the shit out of this because I think this is a good time to do that. And my fear is that I tell someone, "Hey, you should go buy this," and then the next day it drops to like, from 16,000 to 12,000. There's like, "Dude, you just cost me so much money," and then they sell it and they do something fucking stupid. So
Right.
I'm always trying to hedge just so I don't have to put up with nonsense later, because
Yeah.
people's time frames are like a week out, right? They're
Yeah,
they're
they
not
buy
thinking
and it
of,
goes down,
yeah.
a percent, and they're like, "Oh." I
Well, they're
told I told this guy, I said, "When you buy, if you decide to buy, do not look at the price. Just
yeah.
leave it alone. Let's get back to this in a year."
Exactly. Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
Is like, if you manage to get someone over the hump and then manage to finally get them to not pay attention to the price and not flip out and lose their panties because the price dropped by 5% or something, then they are super happy people, right? Because they go, "Dude, thank you so much. Oh my god, I can't believe, like, oh, I can't believe how." Blah. But if you are orange pilling them and you're hedging like I did, and then they go, "I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. It's funny money, blah blah blah," and then a year later they missed out on a 10x. It's like, it's I think it's a pretty steep hill to climb to go. Not only did I miss out on massive gains if I had just listened to you back then, but now I have to eat crow and come back and say, "Now I'm interested now." And then you have to hit them with the whole new spiel of like, "Well, it could, Bitcoin has had historic drawdowns like 70-80%, so it's possible you could get in now and you're going to get nuked for the next 3 years, so just but I wish you would have listened to me then instead of coming now." But so it's like, so so it's pretty remarkable that the fellow that approached you did, now.
Yeah.
And I also go, well, he's also had a lot of fiat influence in his brain, right? Because every time he tunes into C-SPAN or Fox News or whatever, there's
Yeah.
somebody talking about Bitcoin and shilling Bitcoin these days. So it's like, well, okay, I guess if all, I mean, they're lemmings ultimately, right? They just go, "Oh, is everyone headed for the cliff? Okay, cool, I want to go there too." So
Yeah.
it's like,
Every day, all day on the TradFi networks. And then with the TradFi networks actually talking about it too and can't ignore it. It's like, "Oh, this is an asset."
Yeah, it's okay to like it now.
yeah, exactly. Well, by the time they catch up, dude, they're going to be so far behind the curve. It's sort of like, they'll be lucky if they have another thing in their portfolio that does like 10-12% a year, right? They're just like, "Oh, well,
Yeah.
but they're also in that mode where they'll be like, "Oh, I've always been into Bitcoin."
Yeah. In the future, they'll be like, so it's like right now they feel late.
Yeah.
Give it a few years, they'll be like,
Yeah.
"I was pretty early."
Yeah.
I hope it crashes for them. I'm a nice guy like that. I hope it crashes.
Yeah.
I never want it to. Whenever somebody gets off zero a little bit, I always want it to just go up a bit so they can just let it go a little bit and go, "Okay, oh, that was good," and then leave it alone.
Yeah. If possible. I mean, it's problematic. Like, if you just look at the government stats and they go, "Well, most people can't survive like a car breakdown without going into debt, right?
month to month.
Yeah, like they're literally hand to mouth, month to month, just barely scraping by. And so, and meanwhile, like there's all that consumer culture that's constantly bombarding them. And they're always, like all these people that go, I don't have enough money to cover an unexpected expense like a car breakdown. Meanwhile, they've got like 40,000 Amazon packages showing up every day. And, they're adding new trinkets and ding dongs to their whatever. And it's just like, oh, well, okay, I guess you're, stuck. But when your time horizon is that short, when it's like my long-term plan is 30 days from now, you kind of go, well, how do you get that person to get into like, well, you need to be thinking more about like 5 years from now or 10 years from now or 20. They go, I got my 401k for that. You go, you might, but we'll see.
Yeah.
When you have
That
fun.
number goes up, and then when they retire, that's like, what's the price of my beer? Oh my God. I
Yeah.
can't afford to retire.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it's, like there's all that financial re-education, and then you end up taking the red pill, and then next thing you know, you're down the rabbit hole. And so all that stuff is like very disruptive to an ego-based society, right? Where people are like, I'm doing great because of things I do. And it's like, well, you're doing great because of the military industrial complex and a bunch of fiat inflation and the fact that you're willing to trade junk for slavery. So yeah. Okay,
shouldn't
cool.
laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, right? Like it's
I do. Yeah. Well, his wife got off zero as well, and it was a
Woo.
double whammy. Now she was more ready earlier. I was talking to her about it on the sidelines, and she was just interested. Like she'd go, "Hey," to her husband, "Hey, Fritz, Fritz is smart. You need to listen to him." And he'd be like, "I know. We got a plan. We got a plan." So when he got off zero, she did immediately as well. So
Yeah.
double whammy.
Well, you
Nice.
sent them to Swan, right?
No.
Wrong answer, dude.
Well, I shouldn't say names. I was trying to get my mind around what does this guy need? What is his what is he capable of? What does he want to deal with? And I was
Swan, dude. Swan.
yeah, I
River.
should say I took him straight to Swan, and I just hope he's a high roller.
Dude,
Get
Swan.
that big account.
I had an account on Swan for with like $7,000 in it. I mean, they'll take anybody's money, dude. They don't care.
That's true.
So
They'll take anybody, right, Travis?
There's lots of options.
tons of options. Yeah.
We have actually we have a subscription model now.
Oh,
So,
do you?
Yeah. So I would actually usually recommend it for folks who are willing to buy a significant amount of coin.
Oh, no
If you're
kidding.
just going to buy $10 worth, like
Go to Kraken. Yeah.
just jump on. Actually, I usually show up River and Strike for like the smaller amounts.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah, or just, I mean, you could literally just go to Kraken at that point. It's a US based
Yeah.
company. It's full of shit.
But if you want to buy a lot and you want someone to hold your hand through it, like have someone you can just call, like whenever.
Yeah.
Like we assign private wealth folks to clients, which I don't know of any other company that does that. And it's just like a given. So I know there's some that you pay a significant amount. Like I heard, I can't remember what it was, but it was like thousands a year. It's like, what?
wow.
We just give it to you, their subscription, but whatever.
Well, what's that cost? What's a subscription to Swan cost?
It varies.
Depends on how fat your stack is.
I don't really remember, honestly. I think it's like $20 a month or something like that. But
no shit.
I work on the back end. I don't really
You're not front and center in the business
stale
deal
and
with the Swan
chill.
Empire?
I don't. I don't.
That's
Well,
all right.
But it's
So
like, I think it's something like $20 or $15,
Dude.
or something like that.
Yeah, that's
thinking of Bitcoin event things, was about a year ago. Germany sold fairly publicly their 50,000 Bitcoins, and they got swept up quickly.
I remember that.
So it was all, poo-poo on Germany, they're having fun staying poor now, and they sold all this Bitcoin. And then to come to find out more recently, isn't that the whatever the
DOJ.
reserve that the U.S. had that they basically picked up from crime and collections and whatever, it's missing.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
85% of it.
Yeah,
Well,
I've heard a few different things on that.
Yeah.
But it
What
might
have
not
you
be
heard,
this one.
Travis?
I heard that some of that stuff they're reporting were like was Bitcoin categorized a certain way, and it's like it wasn't intended to include the seized stuff, but just like confiscated other ways or turned in other ways or something like that. I don't really know. I can't confirm or deny any of that, but there are like there's a lot of different agencies, and they can seize things, and sometimes like the seized items are like part of a case. It's
Right.
ongoing, right? And it's
Yeah.
might not necessarily be something that the government can keep. It might belong to a rifle owner somewhere.
Right.
There's a whole process of returning it, and what do you return? Like if it was stolen and then seized as Bitcoin, but it was stolen as dollars originally, and like since then, the case has been adjudicated, and there's like this huge increase in profit. Like, what do you get? Right? There's going to be some arguing there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Maybe the original dollars go back to you, and we get to keep the rest, or whatever. Or if
Yeah.
you get into shitcoin land, like it can get really complicated.
Oh
Especially
yeah.
if there's like yield being made on stuff in the meantime. And
Yeah.
it's gross just saying the word yield.
Yeah.
Bitcoin.
Oh, I know, man. It's crazy. Well, I had read a thing that said, all these various agencies that were holding it were like dumping it so they could get the fiat because of that executive order. And I don't know how true this is. I mean, just nonsense that gets peddled around on Twitter or whatever.
That's what I get too.
Well, I mean, that's, I think there's as much validity to most of that shit as, there is to me just spouting some bullshit off the top of my head. But, because that's all they're basically doing. But, what I had read though was that these various agencies, when they saw that order, they go, well, right now this is our Bitcoin, but now we're going to have to fork that over. But if we sell it, then it's just our cash. So we get to keep the cash. We have to give up the Bitcoin. So let's just sell the Bitcoin. And so all these agencies, letter agencies, whatever, just started dumping Bitcoin so they could, and then the follow on is like, that's why the price was stuck. And I'm like, I don't, maybe, but it's still sort of funny to look at. I mean, this whole Trump administration thing, like it's kind of fun to watch, like the Orange Man is great crowd kind of get kicked in the balls over and over and over again. I'm kind of like, why is this surprising to you? But
his handlers, not what it seems. And are we surprised? I had heard the clickbaity stuff I had seen about all the Bitcoin things where it seemed like that the U.S. Marshal Service was in charge of sitting and holding on this stuff, and that they were trying to find it or reconcile it, and then they just couldn't find some, or it was gone, or they lost
a microseed.
Yeah, the U.S. Marshal Service, if they'd have had a microseed and they stamped it in steel and they bolted it to the back of the staff room fridge, it would still be there.
Still be there.
Well, maybe it was stolen by federal agents. That's never happened before.
Yeah.
So
now,
cool.
Unheard of.
Yeah, is that a remote possibility that there's criminality occurring in these areas?
Oh, dude. Yeah,
seems like it'd be easy to detect it eventually.
Eventually,
right? One would think, but that would assume some level of desire to find these crimes. But
yeah, our government always seeks out criminals.
Correct.
Within itself.
Oh yeah.
Always.
Oh, yeah. Always hold themselves accountable.
Yeah.
That brings
Very
us
reliable.
That brings us to Daniel's resource capture game theory, is that there are no rules to that.
Well, there's rules in that. I mean, like all these things are like, consumer rules, right? They're all like resource rules. The mistake people make is they think that those rules should apply to the people that are moving the pieces, right? And that's where it all breaks down. Like the rules are there for people like us to go, we're in a fair system and things are fair and it's going to be fair and we're going to hold people accountable when they do things wrong. And no, but that's just a way to motivate us to be more productive. And it also helps us be more productive because we can resolve conflicts and, negotiate things and yada, yada, yada. It's not just like I can whip out a rifle and go, plunk around through your head and go, it's my land now. So, we get all the private property rights and all that kind of stuff. But when you talk at the sovereign level, none of those rules apply because how could they? There's no one to enforce the rule. If like we can just go flatten a city and people can go, hey, you can't do that. And go, okay, why not? It's against the rules. And we go, yeah. Like we invaded Iraq that was against the rules. You know, like everyone said, hey, you're not allowed to do that. And they go, yeah, but we are. So now what? Well, we're gonna shake our fist angrily in the street and tell you how wrong you are. It's like, all right, thanks, dude, go nuts. So, you know, I think that's where the left is kind of falling apart right now, because all the resource capturing capable people are trying to apply the rules to their fellow sovereigns. And it's like that whole thing when they try to drag Trump through the court system. It's like, you fucking morons. Like, do you think that any of this applies to that guy? Like, that's not how this game gets played, dude. Like, he's not going to be hauled off in cuffs and go down to Sing Sing and, you know, be standing there with a little number plate and getting hosed off and getting deloused. It's just not going to happen, dude. So if, you know, and if they start trying to apply, and that's sort of the failing in their logic right now, is they go, hey, our rules matter. And they go, no, they don't. So, you know, they're self-immolating on that whole thing. But
and left or right, there's an aspect to all that it's like people grappling with, what are the rules? Why aren't things fair the way I thought they were? Or even if they were like upper class gentlemen's rules, or the rules don't apply in certain ways, but then you see something different and it's like, wait, what are the rules? How does this work? And that doesn't make sense.
Right. Well, I mean, that's like, if you just take the whole, like, I'm always going back to the farming analogy because I think it works the best.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if a farmer comes along and goes, hey, we've got this new rule for all you sheep. You guys get to be free range sheep. You get to go and eat grass and, you know, waddle around, and we're never going to put you in a pen, and we're never going to do this, and yada, yada, yada. And you go, yay, we live in the great farm that's got the great rights. And he wrote it down. It's in the sheep constitution. It says we get all these things. And then the farmer, you know, under fiat pressure goes, oh man, I got to cut back on all that free range shit because it's tearing up the yard and I got to have more maintenance for it. So just 10% of the time we're going to feed you corn. And the sheep go, hey, that's not fair. The Constitution says you're supposed to feed us grass. And I know. And we're going to kind of cordon off the yard a little bit. So some of you are going to be in this part of the yard, and some of you are going to, hey, that's not fair. It's against the rules. Oh, well, just take it to sheep court and let sheep court deal with it. But meanwhile, we're going to fence you off this way.
It's for their safety, Daniel.
Of course, right? And so they're going to keep cordoning you off until the sheep are in a little pen where they can't move anywhere, and their whole job is to produce wool and make babies. And they go, hey, this isn't fair. It's against the rules. You're not supposed to do that. And they go, yeah, well, we are. So GFY, right? Like, and the sheep can bitch and moan and complain, but the farmer's still the farmer, right? So it's the same thing for us. Like, we can bitch and moan and complain, but you go, well, do you have any power to change any of that shit? No. Then shut the fuck up, because there's nothing. Like, if you can't do anything about it, then just recognize you're a resource, and you have to play by whatever rules the sovereign is imposing on you. And so people, you know, get kind of hung up on the idea, or don't like the idea of being farmed or whatever. But I'm like, well, we're being farmed. Like, if you don't see it,
this grass doesn't taste like grass anymore. And the deep conspirators are like, it's straw. They're just calling it grass. Yeah. It's like, no, it's not. It's grass. They said it's grass.
Yeah.
No, it's straw. It's
there's seed oils in the grass.
Yeah. The farmer said so.
Straw.
Yeah.
But nobody notices so much, except that it's just chewy now, and my poop is harder. And anyway, my son, he graduated. My second oldest son graduated high school this past spring and is making future plans, but on his own. I did not push Usher anything about this. For his light summer reading, he actually ordered himself a copy of Animal Farm. I have a copy on my bookshelf, but he ordered Animal Farm, and I was like, "Oh, you're gonna read that?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I heard about it.
It's a great book.
Sounds cool." And I'm like, "Good for you!" Like, I got to reread that book, because as we talk about this metaphor of the Animal Farm, as it applies to all of us. I tell you that the transition those animals make, where they overthrow it, and I mean, you can make all the parallels to the Soviet Union and what happened and what that was about. It applies in ways today where, you know, we get someone new that's in charge and they're changing stuff and it's better, and yes, there's fairness, and then things kind of like change a little bit and change a little bit and change a little bit. Next thing you know, it's like, this is all the same.
Yeah, it all ends up in the same spot, dude. Like that's the ultimate takeaway. So that's pretty cool that your son grabbed that, though.
It was random. It was awesome.
Yeah.
when he got it out, it was a crisp new book with a different cover than my old copy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I love it. I'd be interested to imagine that book if, say, it was the same storyline, and then somewhere in there, the sheep and the chickens and the cows and that horse that went away, they realize like what's happening, but they're like, well, now what? And then some sort of special magical white rabbit invents a Bitcoin type thing, and Bitcoin like starts changing the farm. What would that look like? That'd be interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the kind of cool thing about it is like Bitcoin. My ongoing thesis is like Bitcoin is a rule that constrains the farmers, and so regardless of what you're doing as a sheep, the farmer now has to do something different, period. Right.
Yeah.
Because if you talk about there's a bunch of farmers and none of them have any rules that govern how they run their farms, and you could extrapolate that out to nation states, right? They go, there's no rules governing how Kim Jong-il does shit inside Korea. There's no rules that govern how Putin does stuff inside Russia. And there's no rules that govern how we do shit inside the USA. Like, it's just kind of up to us. And the us doesn't really have a voice in most of it. So if you had a rule that can suddenly constrain all the farmers, they go, regardless of how you want to run your farm, you still have to abide by this rule. Like, you can't steal this one thing. You can't just like take over your neighbor's farm because you shot him in the head and you have more ranch hands or whatever. So now you all have to abide by one single rule. So it kind of changes how farmers do business is my sort of core thesis, right? Like, because you're going to lose ground to the farmers that embrace the rule and work within the confines of the rule. And if you're trying to subvert the rule all the time, you're going to just eventually lose ground until you lose entirely. So that's why I think Bitcoin is kind of a big deal. And whether it was a white rabbit that invented it or if it was a farmer that invented it, you kind of don't know. But the fact that in a game that's had no rules for 12,000 years, you suddenly have one rule that you can't break. You go, ooh, that's a big shift in like everything, like that changes how everything works from that moment on. So I think we're starting to see the effects of that already. And I think it's just going to continue to get better and better as we go. But who knows? Bitcoin might fall apart. They're still making blocks, right?
Yeah. Another confirmation. Yep. Another confirmation.
Thank God.
Farmers being an analogy to those who sort of run things in the world or have control over the technologies, the infrastructure, the tools, the governance, farming us.
Yeah. Well, what do you think, Travis? Bring us the ANCAP perspective.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm an ANCAP anymore, but yeah, you're going to have rules, but obviously like who enforces it, how they're enforced are sometimes just as important as what the rules are. Right.
Yeah.
And then, I think with, like anarchists kind of get a bad rap because we kind of think we think there's a lack of rules or no rules, but I see it more like how the rules enforced by private people or like the state, right? Like we tend to rely on the state enforcing the rules and writing the rules, but there's so many examples just in our like society today of rules that are private and privately enforced, and a lot of times those are better examples of like systems than the government enforced ones.
Indeed.
But there's also benefits though of having like state ones, is what I've realized, because there are a lot of situations or scenarios you can think of where, especially when you're trying to enforce like morals, that you might just have to have the state go in and like ruin a family.
Yeah.
And you're invading their privacy and using force on people.
Yeah.
And they're not going to consent or agree to it, obviously. And so think of like situations where they're abusing children in a family.
Right. I was just going to say that.
And it's hidden, it's discreet, but somehow, there's some neighbors that decide to act, and they're not going to act by themselves or, as vigilantes. If there are state rules and state options. Yeah.
Well, that's the other problem with self-help, right? Is like, what if you get it wrong? you know, like, and I mean, take it out of the realm of like the abuse thing, because that's usually pretty straightforward. And, you know, if there were self help options, like all the neighbors got together and go, okay, we're going to go kick Tom's ass because he's abusing his kids.
Yeah. Well, and child abuse might not be a good example actually, because most of us would probably agree that,
Right.
you know, there is like, you know, harm being done and we have the duty to intervene on their behalf. But sometimes we disagree on what harm is. So
Correct.
I have to go away for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah.
come back. But a classic example that came up in my circles was like a family that's trying to transition a kid. And they're like, let's say, you know, the extreme version where they're trying to like do permanent physical changes to a child.
Right.
Like we're going to disagree on is that harm?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Depending
Yeah.
on like, well, if you're from Portland or not, probably, right? But I'll be
Yeah.
right back.